Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Abundology podcast. One of the most common things I get asked during spirit guide readings is about health. Now, I do receive general health related information from the guides, but like all intuitive readers, we have filters. So we interpret what we receive through our own knowledge and our lived experiences. So I am fabulous when it comes to like business guidance or your soul purpose or raising your energy and your spiritual gifts. But medical intuition just isn't my area of expertise, which is exactly why I am thrilled to have my friend Autumn Smith joining me today. Now, Autumn is a gifted medical intuitive and one of my Bozeman friends. So it's fun to have somebody from Montana on the podcast. So, in addition to her intuitive abilities, she's also a board certified doctor of natural health. She holds a PhD in holistic counseling, and she spent the last 20 years specializing in functional nutrition and intuitive healing. And she just brings all the things together: science, intuition, and deep spiritual wisdom, brings them all together in this really magical way. So, today we're going to talk about how medical intuition works, what our bodies are trying to tell us, and how we can start listening more deeply to our own inner healing guidance. So, you are going to love her. So, hi, Autumn. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, I know because I've done readings with you, you have all the clairs. You have clairaudience, claircognizance, clairvoyance, all the clairs. Those are just three of them. Your intuitive abilities really are off the charts. I've never met anybody like you. So, how did you really discover your gifts as a medical intuitive?
So I've always been very empathic, even as a young child. I think my most conscious memory, from the time I was like 5, I can remember picking up on feelings and emotions and what was going on around me. But when I was 16, I had started working for a chiropractor who did muscle testing. And so he would bring me into the room to help be the surrogate tester for a lot of patients. And in doing that, my abilities would just grow and grow and grow. And I would learn that as I would come in and touch the patient, suddenly I'm seeing things in my mind, or I'm getting information about this patient, or I can feel their emotions. And it just kind of grew from there. So eventually the doctor, he would look at me and he would recognize this look that I had on my face when he knew I was getting something. And so he would just say, okay, what is it? And I would, I had to practice speaking up because I was so young and he's the doctor. I don't know anything, right? And
Right.
so eventually I learned to trust myself. He trusted me. And so we just leaned into it. And it became more and more that I would just start picking up things and he would test. And sure enough, that's what it would turn out to be.
Well, and what a gift because I think often we don't trust our intuition. To have a doctor, listen to you and trust you and ask for your guidance probably allowed you to like really, really build your confidence and trust the intuitive hits you got.
It really did. Yes. That being in that space, having a safe place where I was given the opportunity to grow my gifts. I mean, I feel like that made all the difference for where I am now today.
Yeah. So could you explain in like very, very simple terms what a medical intuitive does?
Yeah. So I think everyone's different and unique in their abilities. But for me personally, I can see, feel, know what is going on with someone, whether that be physically, emotionally, or spiritually. And now I'm not saying I can see everything, right? I mean, nobody can, but I definitely pick up on a lot. And so when I'm working with someone either in person or if I'm working with someone remotely, I see them in my mind. And when I'm working, what I see really is like a silhouette. And then I can see different colors, or I'll feel different sensations in my body, or it'll just be a hit of knowing of like, oh, this is what's going on. And then I take it a little bit further and ask, I see this physical problem here, but is it truly a physical problem with like a basic foundational need, or is it caused from an emotional imbalance or an energetic or spiritual imbalance where something's out of alignment that's manifested into this physical thing?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, Abraham Hicks teaches us that, most physical issues begin on the energetic or emotional level before they
Mhm.
show up in our body. And that's always really resonated with me that our thoughts, our vibration, our alignment play a huge role in our well-being. So, to what extent is our health influenced by energy, emotions, or our mindset?
I would say 100%. I personally feel that physical symptoms are the absolute last thing to manifest. And at that point, that's when your body's screaming at you. We were not listening. We didn't get the message energetically, emotionally. We are, suppressing. We're not in alignment with something, whether that be, just because we're conditioned a certain way, or we're not, we're too busy. We're not taking care of ourselves, whatever it may be. Physical symptoms are the last thing to show. If we slow down, tune in, and really check in with ourselves, we can eliminate a lot of those symptoms or stop them from happening.
Wow. So 100%. You know that Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life,
Mhm.
which I have used for, I don't know, a couple decades. And I'll read it and it'll have, like this is the thing going on. And in my head, I'm always like, nah, that's not happening with me. But I'll say the affirmation anyway. And like, sure enough, in a day or so, I feel much better. It's kind of crazy how that works.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
Now, as you know, my son Ryan has had some health challenges over the past couple of years. And this is really the first time that I experienced that sometimes Western medicine just doesn't have the answers. Like doctors ran all the tests, and then when the results were inconclusive, the response was like basically, sorry, we don't know what's wrong, or even there's nothing wrong. The tests say that you're fine. And,
Hmm.
after talking with others, apparently this happens all the time, especially with women, because we're just not listened to. Have
Hmm.
you experienced that?
Oh, yeah. It's heartbreaking. The stories that I have heard from clients that come to me after, I'm typically a last resort, and I'm fine with that because it's just not very well known or accepted traditionally, right? And so we are taught to go to the doctor. The doctor has all of the answers. And I am so just devastated by the stories that I hear from clients, or something that their family members are going through, where more often than not, the doctor either doesn't have an answer for them. Sorry, your labs are normal. You look fine. It's all in your head. There's nothing actually wrong with you. Or we don't know what's wrong with you. So we're just going to remove this part. We're going to put you on antidepressants. We're going to put you on this acid blocker. We're going to put you on some form of medication. And don't get me wrong. I mean, sometimes medication is necessary, right? I'm not anti-medicine in any way. It's just, it doesn't work for, prevention or getting down to the root of something. And that's really what I wish we would focus on a little bit more. And I don't understand that part, when the doctors are just passing out prescriptions like candy. And I don't mean to, it's not their fault. I think that's just kind of how they're trained to think. But from my perspective, I feel like that's turning off the fire alarm while the fire still burns. You're not actually getting down to anything. You're just covering up a symptom, oftentimes creating five more that are going to need something.
Yes. I had my colonoscopy this year. I know everybody wants to hear about my colonoscopy. But when I went in and they're asking the questions, they're like, what medications are you on? And I said, none. And they couldn't believe it. No, 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 no. Just everything that you're on. No, none. You know?
I don't
So,
think you understand the question.
yeah, exactly. And I got asked like 3 or 4 times, like, Renee, really, what are you on? And I didn't realize how common prescriptions are in our country.
Hmm.
And that I don't know, I feel like almost everybody is on something.
Hmm.
Yeah. And you're right. It is kind of masking, not is kind of, it is masking the underlying problem.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah. So are there any like common signs that your body, in your body that they're really often overlooked in traditional medicine?
I think that there's quite a few. I think depression, anxiety, any kind of mental health disconnect, Digestive disorders, huge. Autoimmune issues, pain and inflammation. I mean, I feel like everything is overlooked. They're not getting
Yeah.
down to the root. But in my experience, digestive issues, especially, I mean, they're so easily, I can't say treated, but they're so easily supported with just dietary changes, lifestyle changes. Emotions are huge. I find this a lot with people who are suppressing their intuition, not listening to their gut instinct. They have a lot of digestive issues. Maybe not anything crazy, but maybe it's just, bloating or gas or just discomfort in some way. That's all right there in the digestive organs. So that
Yeah.
comes up a lot. Um,
Yeah.
you know, with mental health stuff, sure, sometimes it is necessary, but I'm always thinking, but why? What caused this? What's the underlying trauma or the unresolved emotional issue that is creating this to happen? As someone who is empathic and who works with a lot of empaths as well, every single one of us could be on depression medication and anti-anxiety med. I mean, every single one. The first time I ever was put on antidepressants was when I was 13 years old, because it's not that I was actually depressed. It's because I was feeling so much from everyone around me. From my family was going through a lot of stuff, and I was taking it all on. And I see that a lot with people who are, taking prescriptions. Again, not trying, no shame, like, nothing like that. I'm just saying, like, there's another way we could be looking at this.
That's so interesting, especially now, because, with
Mm-hmm.
what's happening on our planet and in our world.
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients that are very, oh, I'm going to say overwhelmed right now with everything that's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it kind of manifests in anxiety and depression, and they don't know what to do. They don't
Right.
know that they're taking on the emotions of the collective.
Right.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's very interesting to
Mm-hmm.
me. Hmm.
So I've been talking to my clients about how they can separate their energy from the collective, just knowing what is yours versus what's not. And a lot of times it's as simply as just saying, is this my emotion? And that's it. Just bringing that up to your conscious space for you to know, is this my emotion? Does this match my actual reality that I'm feeling right now? Or what's going on, in my home and in my environment? Is this mine? Probably not. So I can let that go. But also very important for, energetic self-care, salt baths, grounding, movement to release the built up energy that's in the body that we're all collecting from everyone else.
Yeah. So, what about arthritis? Do you see a common thread with people that have like inflammation and arthritis?
Yeah. So emotionally, arthritis has a tendency to be anger, suppressed anger. Maybe not people who are outwardly angry, can be, but a lot of times it's just because if you think about inflammation, inflamed thinking, right? And then, physically, definitely gluten, dairy, and nightshades are huge contributors to pain and inflammation in the body for people who are sensitive to those things.
Yeah, so interesting and not. It all makes such sense. So, have you ever been shocked by what you saw that maybe the doctors didn't catch?
you know, yes. But again, I'm going to have to say, like, the thing that I'm more so shocked by is that they're, they let, sorry, they let things go that I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are we ignoring this? Or a lot of times they'll have something come back on their lab work. Maybe it's out of range in some way. And they're like, oh, well, we'll just watch it. And I'm like, why though? Why are we not addressing it right now? And it can be supported through very simple measures. I had a client who had PCOS, which is something that can be very much supported through diet, lifestyle, emotional. And we happened to have the same doctor at the time. And so I had gone to him. I just happened to be going in and I asked him, so why is it that this person comes in and the only option is birth control? Why do doctors not offer other solutions? And he said to me, I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and I think he was probably comfortable saying this to me, obviously, but he said, to be honest, we don't have time. And also, they probably won't do it anyway. So we're not going to waste our time telling them that there's another option. And I thought, that's malpractice. How can you only offer them one solution? They come to you looking at you like you're the authority. You have all of the answers. If there were any other answers, surely you would tell them, but you don't. And that's what I see most of the time for any condition, any concern. It's just give them something because we don't have the time and we don't want to talk about it. Or maybe they weren't taught, I mean, that's the other thing. Medical doctors are only required to take 4 hours of nutrition in their 10 to 12 years of schooling.
It's crazy when you think about that,
It is crazy. That's the mind-blowing thing. And I'm sorry, I got a little off topic from the actual question. But I have, to answer your question more directly, I have been able to help people avoid surgery, whether that be gallbladder removal, appendix removal, carpal tunnel surgery. I've been able to support clients where they no longer needed the surgery. A lot of times they'll go back and the doctor's like, I don't know what you did, but it's not an issue anymore. You don't need the surgery. Pancreatitis, like a lot of, acute issues can be solved just through, simple measures.
So you talked about nutrition, and I find really interesting that the doctors don't even give people the benefit of the doubt. Like they're not going to change anyway. We're not even going to mention to start eating more fruits and vegetables or whatever it may be. So I'm assuming nutrition and what you eat can play a really major part in your health. This sounds silly, but I see it with my dog. We used
Oh,
to
yeah.
feed kibble, the store-bought kibble to the dog and switch to that raw beef now and oh my God, the dog's like a different dog. So much energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dog. So I can imagine, if we stopped eating processed crap and went more to nutritious food. So is that
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that you recommend for health?
Absolutely. I think that is just a core foundational piece there. Those are your building blocks, right? I mean, our body is designed to thrive off of certain nutrients. And when we are not getting that from whole foods, meaning foods that are found in nature, in their proper form, when we're not getting those, we don't have the raw building materials that our body needs. And so a lot of these processed foods are what we call like Franken foods. They're not actually food anymore. They're food-like products. So that's what most people are eating, are food-like products. And they contain all sorts of chemicals, preservatives, coloring agents, things that excite your taste buds to the point where you think, oh my gosh, this is so good. But really what's happening is they're killing your taste buds. They're exciting them to the point that they die. And then that's why people think that healthy food tastes bad, because it doesn't give you that mouth explosion of flavor. And so we're poisoning ourselves with all of these different chemicals, these neurotoxins. We're overloading our liver. The liver has like 1,000 jobs to do. And just, think of the toxins we're exposed to just in air and water and, all of our daily things. But the food that we're eating, in addition to that, is just poisoning our body. And, I work with, I would say 99% women. And one thing that women come to me for is weight loss. The women are always concerned about weight loss. And here's the thing about whole food. And I have a story about this actually that I will share quickly. I had a client who lost over 100 pounds in 1 year just by addressing emotional concerns and changing her diet to whole foods. And she got off of she was on all types of different medications, thyroid, cholesterol, her kidneys were failing. She had lost nearly all of her hair. Within 1 year, she had lost 100 pounds off all medication, thriving because she switched to a whole foods diet. Now, in regards to the weight loss aspect of it, when we are consuming a lot of toxins, the body says, I want to protect you. And so I store those toxins in fat tissue. If I don't have enough tissue to store the toxins that are coming in, then my body's going to create more tissue to protect me. Otherwise, those toxins end up in the bloodstream, and that's going to make people really sick.
Wow, I've never thought about it like that before.
Mm-hmm.
That's really fascinating. So when somebody comes and you're, checking them out, and really getting the understanding, the intuitive knowledge of what's wrong with them. Yes, it could be like there's something wrong with your shoulder or this or that. But do you also then go? Are you able to tell the emotion behind what is causing that?
Yeah, I would say that's really my top specialty is I'm
Okay.
able to feel very deeply and pick up on the emotion, where it originated, who it has to do with, what the situation was, and we talk about that, and then we release it from the body.
Okay. Okay. So that's where your counseling background
Mm-hmm.
comes
Yep.
into. This is an odd question, but it's come up for me recently in a few different readings. Do you? I know that you have heard about spirits or entities attaching to somebody's body. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that a legit thing? Is that a real thing?
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. I had a client who she had a little boy. She would always, in her mind's eye, she would always see a little boy and she could hear him and she would dream about him. And she was like, of course she comes to me and she's like, I know this sounds kind of crazy. And I'm like, oh, no, nothing's crazy to me. Um, but she said, I would really like this to go away because it's really bothering me. Like she felt this little boy's emotions and she was so sad and not understanding why is he hanging out with me. And she was more worried about this boy, this spirit, this entity. So I was like, yeah, sure, we can support you with that. And so it, the energy was actually focused around her thyroid and her throat chakra. And so we just cleared the energy. And after we did that, she never heard or saw him again. And this comes up a lot. I mean, I find different energies and attachments and entities, and it's not as scary as people make it out to be. Sure, there's darkness, there's negative energies. I mean, that's all true, but we also create a lot of that ourselves through our own negative thinking, and we create these negative entities that are like hitchhikers on our field. But we've created them, and we can also remove them, even if it came from someone else. We picked it up from somewhere else. You can remove all of those. I mean, they don't have any power over you unless you allow it to.
So, what, as you're talking about negative thinking, what role does like positive thinking and staying positive play in your health?
It's huge, and this is the one thing I wish everyone really truly understood is that we have so much more power than anyone has ever allowed you to believe in your thinking, in when you're visualizing. And the most important aspect is to visualize plus feel the emotion. One or the other doesn't work as well as that combination of seeing it, feeling it, knowing it. You can heal so many things in your body. I mean, I can't say 100% of everything, but there are miraculous healings that have taken place. There's studies, there's all sorts of information out there. This isn't woo, this is quantum physics. You can change nearly everything about your reality and your physical health, your financial means. I mean, everything based off of just your emotion and your, positive thinking.
Clearly, I know that since that's my business. Yes, but thank you for explaining it to us. So you mentioned this miraculous healing. So do you have any stories of like miraculous healings that you've witnessed?
I do. And there's so many good ones. I would say I have quite a few. One that comes to my mind just right off the bat is I had a 16-year-old boy who came to me, and he ran track. He was a great athlete, but every single time he would run, he would get horribly sick and immediately start vomiting afterwards. And the mom is like, this is not healthy, and he's an athlete, he loves sports, but every time he would play, he would end up vomiting. It turned out that he had a parasite that was affecting his adrenals. And so we got rid of the parasite, supported his adrenals, and, he could go on to play sports and do perfectly fine. I had another teenage boy who, athlete, concussion, and his brain was just not right afterwards at all. And the doctors don't know what to do for him. There's nothing we can do. This is just what's gonna be now. And nope, we got his brain working again, and he was able to get back to his old self. It took a little while, but he was able to do that. I had another woman who, she came to me. She was recovering from a double mastectomy. And at the time, she had been spending 23 hours a day in bed. She could not do anything, didn't have the energy to do anything. The doctor said, this is going to be a long, long recovery. Within a couple months, she was back to her aerobics classes. I mean, she was full of energy, full of life. And she's so spunky. So it was like so great to see her, get back to where she was. On the emotional side of things, one story that's really interesting is I had a client who, every time her kids would start to argue, like the witching hour, right? Like you get home from work, you're going to start dinner, the kids are arguing, the chaos starts, and she immediately would say, I need a drink. I can't deal with this. I need a drink. So she would pour herself a drink to try to take the edge off, and the kids are bickering in the background. Well, we did some emotional work and found out that the reason that was a trigger for her took her back to her childhood with her and her sister. And her sister would always kind of get her in trouble and, scream and cry and like, it's her fault. It's her fault. And so she would always be in trouble for it. So when her kids would start arguing, that emotion would come up in her, and she's like, I can't deal with this bickering. I need a drink. After we did that clearing, she no longer felt the need to drink anymore. The kids bickering didn't bother her.
Wow.
So I'm just
Wow.
using, there's so many examples of how this work can support somebody's life, whether it be the physical, the emotional aspect. I had a client who had a huge fear. I mean, it was really bothering her every night, every single night for years and years and years. When she would go to bed, she would have this massive fear that something was going to happen to her and her husband in the middle of the night, an intruder, something, really gruesome would happen. And when we worked on that, what it ended up being was a past life that she had. And I was able to locate, like, hey, do you have have you ever lived in this place, or do you have an attachment to this place? And she's like, no, but it's like the one place she's like, I never want to go there ever. And so anyways, we cleared this past life where something really traumatic did happen. That night, she went to bed, had no problems, has never had the fear or these nightmares ever again since we cleared that.
That is so cool. Now, speaking of past lives, I have heard stories before where like people have had like, I'm going to use this as an example, like pain in their back. And then they did like a past life regression or something like that and found out that in a different life, they were like stabbed in the back, with literally like with a knife.
Mhm.
Do you
Mhm.
see these past life things that are affecting people's health in this lifetime?
I do. Yep. Again, whether it be a physical issue, an emotional thing, a fear, a reoccurring nightmare, I see them all the time.
Wow. It's it's
Yeah.
it's so interesting, and when we think about it, like just to go to the doctor and I'm not feeling well, we'll take this pill, and then there could be things from past lifetimes. It could be your nutrition. It could be any number of things. A pill
Mhm.
is just definitely not going to fix it.
Not
It's
going to
kind
take
of
the demons away.
yeah, it's kind of interesting to think that we have fallen for this. Here, just take
Mhm.
this pill and everything will be okay.
Right. But that's our conditioning, and that's what I hope is that in talking about this more and and really, like, I used to shy away from this. It used to be really hard for me to talk about what I did. because I was afraid of being judged or criticized, or I just want to be accepted. And I spent my whole life being weird, and like now I'm still weird, but I'm embracing it because this is how we heal. We have to be looking at these bigger things. Um, there's all sorts of things that people say you can't heal. My son, for example, my middle one, he is 14 now. He had autism, and I say had because he doesn't anymore. He had autism, and we have healed it. He was high functioning. I don't like that word, but you know how they
Yeah,
scale
yeah.
everything, right? But when he was younger, I didn't think he was going to be able to go to public school. I really was concerned about him and how he was going to do in life. And this kid is absolutely thriving. He has the best personality. He is so smart. He does well in any social situation. But, it took, several years. Like he would just get better, better, better all the time. And there's lots of layers to it. But there's so many things we can do for our children, for ourselves. It's just there's a whole untapped world.
Yeah, that you're right, that we're not tapping into.
Yeah.
So, no surprise, we are living in super stressful times.
Yes.
Yeah, like I think maybe to the level, clearly that my generation, a level of stress my generation has never experienced before. So can you just give us some simple things that we can do to stay healthy during this time, to take care of ourselves, to help with all the stress that we're going through?
Yeah. I mean, I would first say we have to unplug from the chaos. I think that's probably the most important thing is unplug from social media. Not that you can't use it, but I mean, what are you consuming? What media are you consuming? Is it creating fear in your mind? Is it creating anger? Those are the things that we need to eliminate from our lives, because as we were talking about how important our mindset is, and what we can create from a positive place, we have to pull back from the reality TV show that's happening right now and really focus on ourselves and what we do have control over, which again is so much more than we realize. But just by coming back to the very basics of whole food, connection, spending time with your loved ones, taking time out just to be by yourself, doing those things that really nourish you on every level, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That is how we are going to survive all of this. And we're going to get through it, not unscathed because we're all going to feel it, but easier. We're going to have an easier time if you stop looking out, start looking in, and ask, what do you need to feel nourished right now?
Yeah, and I think that for especially women, we are not used to looking in. It's
Mm-hmm.
well, let's put it society in general. It's always about what's happening out there, and we don't really
Yeah.
look inward. So to
Right.
even ask the question of what do I need right now to take care of myself, like that's a mind shift.
Yep. It's
Hmm.
it is a hard question because we've never been taught to ask ourselves that. I mean, growing up, it's always don't be selfish and what can you do for others? And especially for women, this is a struggle that we have. This is why so many women have way more autoimmune issues than men. This is why women are burnt out. This is why, we're tired. you know?
Well, speaking of tired, can you talk just briefly before we head on out for the day about sleep? Because I have heard multiple times, besides nutrition and what you're eating, like sleep is one of the most important things that you can do for your health. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Your body does not have the energy to heal if you're not sleeping well. I mean, you do most of your healing while you're sleeping. So if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. And in addition to just the physical side of that, when we are sleeping, that's when we're actually processing a lot of our emotions too. That's where, our
Uh,
dreams are coming from, whether you remember them or not, doesn't matter. Your subconscious mind is going all night long trying to process, which is why women actually need more sleep than men, because women are more emotional. We need more time to process while we're sleeping.
yeah. This is also fascinating to me. And what I love about you is you do two things. You're a medical intuitive, so you can tune in and understand, what's going on in somebody's body. But you're also a doctor of natural health, and you have a whole bunch of other certifications. Honestly, too many to even list here. So I think I know other medical intuitives, and you go to them and they say, this is what's wrong, but they don't have the medical background. So you're like the complete package, with both things.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, Autumn has generously offered Abundology podcast listeners $50 off your initial consultation with her with the coupon code ABUNDANCE. And you can book an appointment with her on her website, thrivingrebelwellness.com. And I will put a link to that in the show notes. And I thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know
Thank
we
you.
have these conversations because we live close and, we've shared this information before, but it's really nice to have you on here and share all your knowledge with all the listeners. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody. Thank you. And I'll talk to you again next time.